So welcome to another episode of our podcast on Hillock Green. So right beside me, I have Ismail Gafo, CEO of PropNext. And sitting across me, I have the Chief IC of Hillock Green, SK Lim, as well as Ivan Xia, Lead IC of Hillock Green. So let's dive straight into the podcast now.
Sure.
Okay. So the first question I have is, with Hillock Green being the last residential plot nearest to Lentor MRT and amenities linked via a planned sheltered walkway, so could you then explain how important it is to have such an attribute?
No, I think certainly we know. I think a lot of people today who wants to buy a property, MRT definitely stands out as one of the key criteria. I mean, let's just ask this question. How many of us are driving here today? What about you, Teresa? Do you drive?
Sadly, no.
You don't. Sadly, no. Okay. What about SK?
I don't drive.
Really?
I don't have a license.
What?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's why public transport is important to me.
Okay, so you see, we can see, even though, I mean, how many years have you been in the business, SK?
16, 17
Yeah,
years.
and you've been successful, and that means the public transport becomes such an important
Yes.
amenities, right?
Yes.
Okay, what about you, Ivan?
Yes, I drove today.
Okay,
Yeah.
and let's talk about it. If assuming SK or Teresa, if you want to buy a new car, don't talk about a new car. A car, even if it is 10-year-old and one have to renew the COE, how much will that be? Anybody know?
COE now for Cat B will be 140,000 range.
What? I thought
Yes.
the price of the car is 140.
No COE.
Just the COE.
Yeah.
How certain are we about that?
I just renew in September. Yes, it is about 140.
You paid 140 just for a 10-year renewal,
Yes, I did.
not a brand new car.
No.
Do you know
I
I
did.
bought an Estima?
Mhm.
Okay, no point. I mean, if I
Okay.
talk in this, all people will say you are not relevant because I bought an Estima at
Right.
99,000, but that was 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and that's a brand new. Okay, so it's irrelevant. So okay, now coming back to the question, Teresa, MRT today is very, very important because look at it. The government is in a way, I won't say controlling the number of cars, but the congestion, and we also want to be a carbon-free nation as far as possible. And if you have an MRT at the doorstep, near, it is a huge plus point. I mean, I look at it as far as the Lentor Estate is concerned. 2 developments have been launched, right? Which are the 2 that has already been launched?
I think the first one was Lentor Modern, then
Lentor
followed by
Modern.
Lentor Hill in
Yeah.
recently.
And I very certain, I know that Lentor Modern was so well received, and I understand as of today, 96%, close to 96% was sold.
Mm.
And we are talking about a development with 605 units, balance only 25 units.
Yes, you're right.
Yes.
And as far as Lentor Hills were concerned, another big development too, 598 units just launched in July, right? Was it July?
Yes.
July,
right.
yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
And as of today, I understand 66%, 2/3 has been sold.
Yep.
But what's interesting here is this. How familiar are you in the Lentor area, Ivan?
Lentor area is something new to me. I started more towards knowing the area when I'm doing Lentor Modern. It's a very nice rustic area, a very private enclave within the Ang Mo Kio planning area. And I really like the vibe when I'm doing my duty. The area is surrounded with nature, but yet you still do have MRT that runs all the way to Gardens by the Bay. I think it's something that I will live into this area. With
And
some-
Ivan, you also bought a unit down there, right?
Yes, I did. I did bought a unit there because I'm really charmed by the surrounding of that area.
I mean, that speaks volume, that the confidence that you have. But actually, you could have waited a bit longer. How long ago did you pick up a unit?
In July.
In July.
In July,
Therefore,
yes, I did.
without you mentioning the development, if you say there were only 2 developments, Lentor Modern was launched last year,
Yes.
and Lentor Hills were launched in July. So I assume it's Lentor Hills. But if you had waited, you know what we are going to talk today is all about Hillock Green.
Yes.
And I think Hillock Green, the side gate, the sheltered walkway to the MRT is likely to be the shortest distance, shortest for a residential development to the MRT. Am I correct or not?
You're right. Yes. So I have to earn more money. I have to work harder to probably
Buy a
buy
second one.
second one.
You will be subjected to
Yeah.
ABSD. Yeah. But I think more or less we conclude or we feel that unless SK you want to add on something on, and I totally think that it has been proven development that are walking distance to MRT, despite today's current market situation, where the interest rates are slightly high. But the good news here is the interest rate has gone down compared to last year to now almost more than 1%. That shows a lot more confidence. Even at the new launch prices, people are willing to come and buy. So MRT is a key amenities for any developer.
True. In fact, if I were to look at all the properties at either near MRT or just next to MRT, in fact, the demand for the last 10 years or last 5 years, prices has been steadily increased. One of the property I would say maybe like North Park in Yishun, North Park resident. Those were the day when people were thinking that Yishun, oh my god, I need to pay 1,005 PSF, 1,004 PSF. But look at today, the prices also appreciated. Why? MRT factors. That is a plus factor for a lot of homeowner, even they drive.
But of course, because I think today we are not only talking about even in a family you have a car, put it this way. I mean, I drive, but I've got 3 children, and not everybody can drive. So and you're very comforted that fact that and the convenience of an MRT, and it's also we talk about safety and security.
It is.
If the MRT is nearby and if it's in a sheltered walkway and it's lighter, even if my child come back at 10 p.m., I'm so fine. I feel safe. That's very important.
I agree totally. MRT and shops as well. We do have Lentor Modern Malls coming up, as well as the nature park just behind. I think it provides a lot of good things to the lifestyle of the whole family living within Hillock Green itself.
And I think tenants will prefer to stay near MRT or next to MRT.
Yeah, but one thing has been absolutely certain, past data, even though I'm not able to show right now, but I'm quite sure if any of the viewers, if they really ask any of our PropNext salespersons, we can show it through our business suites or sales suites in terms of the rental yield. Development that are very close to MRT tend to command a higher rental, and which means you tend to get a better yield. And it's also another way that when we look at it, any property or development that can command a higher rental will have a higher chance for capital appreciation. Why do I say that higher chance? Put it this way, all capital appreciation of a development is a byproduct of rental yield. What do I mean by it in a very simple term? If somebody buy a property for $2 million and the rental right now is, let's say, 4,000, in 10 years down the road, if the rental still remain at $4,000, it makes less logical for the capital to continue to go up. But if the rental can go up from 4,000 to 5,000 to 20%, then the property justify from 2 million to 2.5 million.
It is.
So that's why location, and MRT is key in decision making.
It is.
Okay, Teresa, I think it's for you to book one at Hillock Green,
Yes, I need to contact them.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, so talking about a residential plot of land, so there's potentially up to 12 plots of government land sales, GLS lands, within the Lentor area. So do you then anticipate an oversupply in this area?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think Lentor, it is an estate that it is not in one of those mature estate, a small plot built en bloc or SERS or development. It is a holistic approach of government master plan where making use the MRT as an eccentric to radiate a complete new township.
Yes.
And what is so exciting and interesting about Lentor estate altogether, I think here is this. Unlike cut and paste anyhow, it is a well thought through plan surrounded by landed enclaves. So I don't think it is an oversupply, because if you look at it overall, the populations in Singapore's statistics have shown has increased, and overall I think the demand from the outlying areas, people who wants to come to a more centrally located area, is very strong.
Yes.
What do you think, SK, about this?
Okay, one thing is I do look into the buyer's address that for buyers that bought Lentor Modern, Lentor Hills, all these buyer addresses are mainly coming from Sengkang Punggol, Woodlands, Yishun, Sembawang, Ang Mo Kio, Bishan, Thomson.
Wow.
So one thing, if you look to get today, if let's say you were to look at Lentor location out of the entire Singapore map, we are actually located in the middle of the map. So people staying outskirt, really the far outskirt, who will want to move closer to town, closer to the town area. That is why the government actually planned for Lentor Township. And this when we talk about new township, usually we have infrastructure, roads and everything in.
Yeah.
But now, 12 plot of land, the government actually started the operation of Lentor MRT first, before all these full 12 plot of land actually
you mean
launches.
the MRT is already functioning?
Already running.
But I mean, the development haven't complete.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, there are landed enclaves
There
Yes.
is.
and
there
there
is.
are residents there.
Yes.
You see, but this is definitely a plus point.
Yep.
You know, many a time, don't even talk about a new township.
Yeah.
People always say that the MRT is under construction and they don't buy, but it takes 5 years
It
of
is.
having to bear the traffic congestion, the noise pollution, and yet for the first 4 years you don't even benefit. And worse still, after 3 years you sell the property.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that's definitely a good point.
Yeah.
Anybody who's buying in the Lentor estate, because of the master plan, the MRT is already operating.
It is.
Yeah. So I think, Teresa, to your question, is there an oversupply? I don't think so, because it's in a township, in a very central location, but there's a very keen interest from the outer
Yes.
areas where people want to come to this place. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So you also mentioned that the construction of the MRT and the expressway, along with the lack of supply for new developments stretching from Woodlands all the way to Mount Pleasant. So how can buyers take advantage of this information when purchasing a new property in Lentor to maximize on their capital appreciation?
Yeah, when we talk about capital appreciation, nobody can for certain guarantees. Yeah. But then we look at it in the last 20 years time period. How many of us wish 5 years ago we bought a property at 1,005, 1,006, and we were still resistant.
Yes.
And if you saw 15 years ago, it was barely $800-900.
It is.
People say it's crazy. Yep. So it has moved. One thing I can be certain here is this. For new launches, the prices tend to remain stable.
Yes.
One of the key reasons here is when we look at it, the other two development, Lentor Modern sold at well above $2,150, well above 2001, and some of the units went even to 2004.
Yeah. 2005.
2005, maybe the smaller units,
Yes.
but by and large, people are willing to pay a premium.
Yep.
And then and we are talking about almost 400 units were sold at Lentor Hills, and yet we are talking about well above $2,100 per square foot. And even though when we look at all other plots surrounding, and when we work backward, the break even. So we are quite certain none of the existing plots that have been already bidded are going to sell below the $2,100 mark.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that being the case, in terms of a price point, Teresa, how I feel here is this. New development will hold the prices, and at the same time, the prices of the 1-2 year down the road, inflation that we will have to factor.
Yep.
Manpower costs, construction costs, material costs.
Yes.
Even next year, GST increased by 1%.
Yeah.
All these things is adding on to the cost of building a new development. So I think in terms of capital appreciation in a new township with amenities and as well as malls, vibrancy, more people would like to stay there.
Yes, for
And
sure.
definitely the demand will be there. So I do not want to speculate in terms of a capital appreciation, but I'm confident based on the past records, because when there's a stronger demand, property prices tend to hold.
I agree. And what important now is if you talk about Lentor Township, when it comes to a township, we have this term called pioneer advantage. I would like to take another township as an example, like Teng Na Township. Teng Na Township right now we'll be seeing a lot of public housing like HDBs, scheduled BTO, all mainly in Teng Na. And Teng Na don't have any private residential launches. They only have EC so far. It's the Coupon Grand EC has been launched there. Yeah, but if you also one thing to look at it is even ACS has relocated to Teng Na. So for a new township like Lentor, there is also a lot of reserve land. More thing for, in order to grow into a mature township, I will probably think next education institution might be exploring that area.
Yeah.
More mosques, maybe hospital and things like that. In order,
No, I think whether it is a place of education or is it a clinic or hospital, obviously it all have to be inclusive because now we are
Inclusive.
talking about a township.
yes,
I think that is in Singapore. That's one of the Singapore's advantage.
yeah,
It
Because
is.
our town planners are excellent, and the connectivity among the planners putting together the resources is also another plus point. So I'm very sure whether is it a Tanga or is it this now Lentor, people are going to hugely benefit from having to stay at ease, convenient, comfort, and the new designs.
Yes.
Understand. Yeah.
Ivan,
I think adding on to the pioneer advantage, I mean, few things that I think I recognize are number one is government is building out.
Sorry, when you say pioneer, not pioneer by each generation.
It's not being the very early mover.
Oh, so you're looking at
being
the first
very
mover,
early
the
mover,
early
yeah.
mover
Yes,
who
it
go
is.
and then okay, fine.
Yes, it is.
Because sometimes when we say pioneer, because I am not young, yeah.
Still
So
young
I
at heart,
always
bro.
have this maybe insecure feeling talking about pioneer generation.
It is. Okay, pioneer advantage as in we recognize that government is doing up road infrastructure, transport infrastructure in terms of the expressway, North-South corridor, in terms of the MRT line, Thomson-East Coast Line. We also notice that government is releasing housings. I mean, Lentor being the first clusters along this Thomson-East Coast Line. Because I think there is a massive lack of supply along the Thomson-East Coast Line from Woodlands to Mount Pleasant. If we talk about projects that is probably 10 years under 300 units and above, Woodlands, I don't think we have 500 meters from MRT. Coming down to Springleaf, I don't think we have. Lentor, yes, government recently released some of the Lentor cluster land. Going downwards towards Mayflower, Bright Hill, we don't have for resale, probably only Panorama. I think it's the only one that fulfill this condition. And of course, Thomson, all the way down to even Cathcart, Mount Pleasant, there's a severe lack of supply within this MRT line. Yeah, and I think government foresee the need of demands for houses because they are doing up the whole North Coast Innovative Corridor. Just Woodland itself, right? I think Woodlands Regional Centre is expecting 100,000 new jobs. Yeah, we are not talking even about Seletar Regional Centre, which is 2 times the size of Tampines Regional Centre. We are not even talking about Punggol Digital District that's incoming. Yeah, that is very clearly why government do certain planning first in advance because they foresee a demand for this area. And it's for you to take this pioneer advantage to buy into this area before more and more announcement or news comes into this area.
Yeah, I think all said, Ivan and SK Teresa, I still will put in a caveat to all the potential buyers. Please talk to any of our PropNex salesperson, understand in details, do some of your due diligence and your sums right. Because I'm one who always advocate whoever who buy a property not to be speculative. Because we want mid and a long term. And my definition of a mid and long term is anything 5 years and beyond is considered really good. Okay, and 5 to 10 years is really good. I think it's a mid-term investment. If anybody want to exit after 5 years, 6 years, even though people can choose to exit at 3 or 4 years, but I'm just saying that people shouldn't be speculating in a real estate investment.
It is.
And must buy within our means. And to me, honestly, when I visited this Lentor area or some of these show flats, somehow I just must say to every one of you who must go to the place, even though you choose not to buy, do you suddenly feel that maybe there's a moment you ask yourself, am I in Singapore? That kind of a feeling. Because Singapore is so busy, bustling with activities, traffic, noise. Over there, it seems to be a bit more calm, more serene. Nature, rustic. Honestly, I like the place. Worth
Totally agree.
considering.
Okay,
So-
so
Teresa, I hope we answer all your questions.
oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's something I'll consider as well, because as a nature lover, I'll consider that area. So moving on to the next question, it's a bit lengthy, but please bear with me. So it appears that GLS bid prices are lower compared to those of last year or the year before. So for example, Hillock Green, so secured a winning bid of 1,108 per square foot per plot ratio in September 2022. So Lentor Gardens at approximately $985 per square foot per plot ratio. And most recently is Lentor Central at $982. So does this mean that buyers should wait for lower launch prices?
Okay, maybe I think this is very important. It's a very good question, Teresa, because because we are talking about the price difference of, let's say, $1,060 by Lentor Hills. Versus now, if you're talking about the Lentor Gardens at $985, so you're talking about a difference of about $75.
Yes.
And if you take a $75 over $1,060, it's about 7%. Yeah. One of the key reasons I want most of the potential buyers, investors, or just for knowledge here is starting from June this year, the URA has come out with a new definition of how the GFA of an estate or a new development should be defined. And therefore, they call it as a harmonization of how the sellable area can be accounted for. So which means to say, compared to Lentor Modern or the earlier development versus all the new plot where the developers are bidding right now, will subjected to a new definition, which means they will lose about 7% of sellable area.
Yes.
They will lose because last time the developer can build very much bigger balcony space and things like that, aircon ledge, or
void
kind
areas.
of thing, whole areas. But now they can't because it's all part of it. So that being the case, the developers are mindful about that. That's why the land bid seems to be about 5 to 6 or 7% lower. So that is not going to bring benefit that the prices are going to be lower. But in fact, by waiting, I think the bigger concern will be inflation.
Agree.
And cost of all materials and GST. And therefore, I'm quite confident. I mean, Teresa, I'm very confident. It's because developers who bought the land just recently, if you see the Lentor Garden, it will only likely to come into the market, say, 12 months to 15 months. And at today's cost, even when they lock it, it's not going to be any lower than what you can get. Probably maybe higher, but I don't want to be speculative. But I'm not expecting it to be hugely to be lower.
I mean, also another consideration is Hillock Green being the last residential plot that is closest to MRT. Logically, I would like to pay lower and stay nearer to MRT rather than I pay more and further away from MRT.
Actually, even if you don't pay more, put it this way. If you buy Hillock Green, for example, at 2,000, just for hypothetical, 2,100 per square foot. Subsequently, you go and buy a plot that is another 200 meters away and you still pay the same price. But you already pay the same price, but you are further away. So from a rental yield or from a future capital appreciation, you are losing out in that sense. So I think, as you said, either the first mover or the pioneer who buy, especially on sites that are nearer the MRT, for sure will have a better advantage.
I agree. Because opportunity cost also, the more we wait, we're not sure can we get a plot that's similar attributes to Hillock Green. And of course, TOP is another thing. If buyers buying for own stay, TOP, will it be a concern for them? I think this is another question to ask them.
Nice. So I think I've gotten a few key takeaways from my entire conversation. So I'll just briefly do a summary of it.
Sure.
So with Hillock Green being the nearest to MRT, so you mentioned just now that properties located near to the MRT will typically command a higher price. So maybe about 10% to 15% on average. So we also talk about the supply in the Lentor area, whether is it an oversupply or an undersupply. And also on new township and pioneer advantage, as well as on capital appreciation.
You have heard a lot of good points about the Lentor estate, and particularly Hillock Green being one of the nearest last residential plot. Take advantage, speak to any of our PropNext salesperson, and akan datang soon preview. Don't miss the opportunity.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.